Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room that we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Congratulations, Toby. Congratulations, Tori. Congratulations, Torby. You did it. You escaped the room.
Torby and Jen forever aboard the spaghetti and meatball.
Woo!
Forever.
Do you feel proud of the fact that now this ship is called the Spaghetti and Meatball
and that
for the
every
rest of
one
the
of
arc?
our subsequent guests for this arc gets to be told that? And it's...
Yes, I do.
I'm glad.
I do too.
Good.
I feel the most proud.
I also am hopeful that Torby will maybe make an appearance.
Who
'cause
knows?
Me too.
We don't know what happened to Torby.
I think I'm the most proud about it because when you said we had choice and we landed on that, Bill said, I hate this.
We're going to have to explain it to everybody else. They're going to be like, oh, so you're on a ship, right? Now, this ship is the Spaghetti and Meatball. That's not a clue. I know it seems like a clue because it doesn't make any sense.
It seems like a clue. It is.
It does. It does.
I am perfectly happy with it. I was saying, as we speculated, because we had no idea what you were going to name it, and I was going, do I think that these two are going to, give it a sincere name? Oh, they might. Okay. I think if I emphasize to them the gravity of their choice, that will make them go sillier. And so I got exactly what I wanted.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that had the right effect. And you know, the number of times Bill has thrown some complete nonsense name or idea,
and everyone's had to straight face it.
Yeah, this feels like just a small
Redemption.
coin in the bucket that's starting to get us a little even.
I've never done a silly thing in my life. That's ridiculous.
It is the perfect level of irreverence. I really enjoy it.
I think you really set the tone with shenanigans. Like that let us off, you know?
I enjoy that. I enjoy that. I don't do too many of the individual episode namings. I struggle with them. But the whole mini arc names, I like being able to go all out in my silliness with those.
I think
you got to do the high school one, which was just called High School. Not a little silly. Not that silly.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
but
little
Toby
silly.
had to play in Escape Roompa Loompa.
You got Escape Roompa
did.
Loompa.
It wasn't named at the time when I did it.
Well, it ended up as Escape Roompa Loompa.
I mean, I still enjoy the ET series more than any of them.
That's where this started. This started with you being like, I'm going to call it E.T. the Escaping Terror Escape Reel. And I said, that's
really
the
funny.
worst. I hate it.
Shenanigans is tame by comparison.
We have had some strange naming conventions, especially ones that made no sense. Way back, season 4, we had Descent of the Culledons. Perfectly reasonable name. It was quite lovely. It was fun.
Yeah, that was
It about
sincere
both
at the time.
The descendants of the Culloden family, as well as sort of the descent of the
collapse of
Culledons
them.
into obscurity and anger. And it was nice. But then for some reason, we decided that we would name every single individual episode with a quote from The Simpsons. And it was purely because the first one was set in a ghost car. And we said, what if we called it There Are Ghost Cars All Over These Highways? Which is a Chief
Great
Wiggum
moment.
line. And then we went, we'll have to commit to doing a Simpsons quote for every single
And
room.
we have done that for
It was
this
fun.
season as well. We have committed ourselves without any idea of what the future ones will be called and whether we'll be able to fit them. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. What was this episode
The
called?
Amnesiatic Sea.
Oh, we're going to name them all after. They're all going to sound like fake seas. So, yeah, this is called episode 1, The Amnesiatic Sea. Who knows what's going to happen next? I don't know what the themes are for each room.
No.
Is one of them Mediterranean? Because that would be
it
easy.
should be. You should name this one Pasta Brain.
Pasta brain.
All right. So, tell me about your adventures in this room. What did you get to do that made you feel proud of yourselves? Because this was puzzly.
Was puzzly. I don't, Toby, I feel like we did so good together. I feel like we were a good team.
I did too. I made a note of that it felt like
He has one note. There are no
Good
clues. No puzzle. It
team.
just says good team.
It's almost an anagram of meatball.
no, it felt like because I did one of these before and I don't remember all of it, but it felt like not one of us was really driving the solutions. Like it seems like we were genuinely doing it together. Like
It
like
did feel
each
that
giving
way.
a piece and like honestly, Tori, it felt like we've been doing escape rooms for the last 20 years together, except for the last puzzle.
Yeah, I feel like we were really in the zone on the menu. I feel like that's where
I was very proud of you when you first spotted, wait a second, the word sticky.
Yeah,
That was so good.
Well, I think you maybe, I don't know who spotted it first, but something you said, Toby, definitely like made me, I think you maybe noticed it was like in the desserts, like all 4. And then that sparked me to think like, where else is it? Like, and anyway, that felt like the best like building puzzle where
Agreed.
like you were like this, maybe it's this. And then I'm like, oh, well, what about this? And
for us, it was really interesting, like, because I was watching what I think was a really good seed for it, is that before you were getting to the menu, or like maybe you'd seen the menu once and you were sort of thinking again, Toby had a moment of going, I wrote leaky for the first dial. It's kind of leaky, and Danny said, well, it's not really like
It's
leaking
not, like,
everywhere.
dripping
It's just
or
like
anything.
it has, and
It's
so,
just got kind of sticky residue
and
to
so
it or whatever.
Tori, just like me, in your notes you had written oily, I think, and I had oily as well. And just having Toby go, I'm just going to write sticky. I'm going to say that this one's sticky. And it was that, and I was like, and I just heard it and I went, this is going to help them later on. Toby doesn't know it yet, but that's going to help later on.
But I'm glad that you noticed that the desserts seem to be a good place to notice, because Bill was having trouble with that one in the play test, and I told him, I don't know, maybe just for the moment look at the desserts. Maybe that'll help you more.
Yeah, in the playtest, I got stuck on that one for a lot longer than you. But I think from a playtesting perspective, I wasn't worried, because I think it, like you said, I looked at it and went, this would be a puzzle that'll work really well with 2 people. I think being able to like talk to each other and fire those ideas off until it comes together, I think that'll
like
work
a
better.
lot of the dynamics seem to be that Toby you would get the aha moments. You would say, oh, these 2 things are connected to each other. And then Tori, you would come up with, okay, now what is the method that we use to work with those and get an answer out of those? It seemed like that tended to be the flow.
Yeah, it was honestly great. It was a joy.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because like, so for me, I got so stuck for ages on the menu puzzle. But when I started and I saw, like, during the room introduction, when they said there are 15 rooms, or like there's 7 on this side, 8 on this side, I went, 15 rooms. Okay, so like I'm going to probably divide them into 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 1, 2, 5, 7, 10, 11, 13, 14. Because I've got divisible by 3 or 4, or not divisible by 3 or 4. I'll separate them that way. Let me just separate them. That was the first thing I did during the introduction.
You know why it looks like that on the checklist, why it's in the 2 little weird mutant circles on them, was because initially I went, so I'm going to do this Venn diagram. There would be no crossover. Why would I possibly do a Venn diagram? It's just got to be separate circles.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this okay question time?
No.
No questions.
Send us an email later.
If we had examined that lock earlier or tried to break the lock, would we have bypassed that puzzle?
That's an interesting one for
Danny. I haven't
Danny.
thought about it because I have full confidence that no one is checking everything for false bottoms. But in theory, that wouldn't have broken anything unless you also happen to check the lockbox for a false bottom.
Sure.
Then you wouldn't have gotten the key cards out of that, so you wouldn't have been able to do anything with the machine. So maybe in the moment, I probably would have panic allowed it.
They're actually, that's kind of fun. Like, you can allow one false bottom to be found by the player, and then just don't let them find the other one. Until they see the note that there are multiple false bottoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I was pretty comfortable with the idea that people aren't going to be going and checking that for no reason.
Yeah.
You did try to pick the lock.
I was going to say, I did try to pick the lock. And I think that's where, for me, like the role-playing aspect of these escape rooms comes in. Because if, like, I was prepared to try to break the lock. I like jiggle it or like mess it, but not search for a false bottom. So I was just wondering, like,
no, yeah, and this is just one of those things where this is why we do this and not a real physical escape room, because that's much harder to be confident of in an actual escape room, that no one is going to find your thing that is just happens to be hidden somewhere. We have that one of our Patreon things is that we react to escape rooms in pop culture. And a big one that they have issues with is what is the final puzzle that they have put in their escape room. So, for example, like The Big Bang Theory, the characters go into an escape room. And the final puzzle, the final key to get them out of the room is just hidden behind a poster. And there were a lot of clues that led them there, but anyone could have lifted that poster up at any time.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, yeah, in this, luckily, because we do it in this format, I just get to say yes or no if I don't want you to be somewhere.
And I think
Worst comes to worst, I could just say, because it's a podcast as well, I could just say, hey, Toby, I love with you. If you do this, you're going to break it. Please don't.
it's true.
Okay.
But I think it's also that, like, as you said, like, there's a different expectation from a player perspective. Like, if you were
That's
playing
true,
a tabletop role-playing game and you said, I'm going to try and bash the door down.
If
and
I
we
told
said,
you no, that would be
you're not allowed
outrageous.
to try. You'd be like, what do you mean I can't try? I'm a big guy with an axe. Like, I'm going to break the door down. Like, no, you can't break the door down. Let me roll. No, you can't. But in an escape room, you know that it's there for puzzles and logic. So if you say, I'd like to smash it, we'll just be like, no, you don't smash it.
Could you get out
Solve
of
the
an
puzzle,
escape room
please.
by smashing the door? Sure.
Yeah.
Could you have solved this one by smashing open all of the doors? I guess.
It is true. This same logic applies to a real escape room.
Yeah.
You can always break your way out of a real escape room. You agree not to. So this follows the same logic.
That's why
really
we're
good.
here.
Yeah, it's sort of the player GM agreement of like, okay,
Exactly.
we all know what we're doing here, and like the means by which we will escape.
But it's interesting because it is different because there is a different agreement in tabletop role playing. That's why people have a lot of trouble with like, what puzzles can I put into my tabletop role playing game? It's a very different character situation. In real life, if you found a puzzle box and you weren't in an escape room, if you're like, I'm in my real life and I desperately need a key and I know the key is in a puzzle box, that box gets smashed underfoot every single time. You wouldn't try and figure it out in real life. In real life, you're like, no, I need the key. Come on, guys, I need that key. I'm going to smash this box with a hammer.
Yeah.
So D&D follows those sorts of rules, not puzzle rules. So that's why usually when people end up with puzzles in their D&D games, it's almost always there's a riddle written on the wall. You can't mess with it. You just have to. There's no way to do it other than read the riddle and try and come up with the answer. Because
It's magic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's magic.
Because it's so
That's
much different. It's a very different sort of world that the players are living in. They're not trying to solve puzzles. They're trying to solve problems.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
it doesn't-
that
it's
actually
really hard.
brings to mind. We didn't really have a puzzle like this in this room, but just listening to some of your other episodes, and I'm trying to think if there was one like this in the one I played before. I don't remember, but I remember like it almost makes me kind of gun shy the other way, where if there is like an object, like say we had like a crowbar or something, and we needed to like use it to lift something, like it almost makes me like shy away from
100%.
that solution, you know, of like, can I just use this object as I would in real life?
We have definitely had problems with that before with some escape rooms where we just go, are they telling me to dismantle this thing and I'll find something inside? Or am I just going to break their stuff?
Or even just like if you find a locked drawer in an escape room and then you realize like, well, hey, I know that this is a chest of drawers. I can pull out the top drawer and I can access the bottom one that's locked. Like, I know I can do that. That's like, I could just remove the entire drawer and then just have access to it. And you have a moment where you're like, do they know I can do that? Is that what their like trick solution is? Or am I now not playing the game? And I would usually like I would like wave at the camera and be like,
I'm going to do this.
I'm going to do this unless you tell me that's not meant to be the solution. Because I can solve it this way. Let me know if this is dumb or if I'm actually, like, just tell me if I'm doing it wrong and you don't want me to do that.
And again, we're fortunate in doing this. This is a GM-led experience. This can happen
Yeah,
as
you can
we
ask the
go. I
person.
don't have to worry so hard about things being broken.
But it is true. It's hard to know what their expectations are.
Yeah.
And therefore what you should do. And there's nothing worse than a person doing it and be like, well, why didn't you just do this? And you're like, because I deliberately was trying to respect the room. You know, when they try and like turn things on their head a little bit, it's really hard to make people then not be like, well, obviously I didn't do that. I know I can get out in many, many ways. I was trying to play and you tried to subvert it. It's a hard line.
I had two moments in this one that felt similar to that on two opposite ends. So I wrote that we solved that puzzle with the switches super easy.
Yep.
And it almost felt like we were robbing the show. Because I was like, or not even just the show, but robbing our like that dopamine hit of solving the puzzle, because
It can.
it's like that drawer idea, Bill. Like we just solved it. We happened to press it in the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can I
No,
tell
which
you
is
all
that
I have?
Was that an oversight on your end, Danny, or
I
did
tell you what
know?
that says in my notes. One example would be to simply press the buttons in the order 1, 2, 3, 4. I kind of hope players don't just stumble into it, but if they do, good fortune to them.
Yeah. So it was.
I had
like,
so many variants on light puzzles, and annoyingly, trying to make them so that things like that don't happen end up just in a collapsed pile of confusion. I have like 2 pages in my notebook that are just circles that are colored in and not colored in, and it was awful. So I just figured we would end up in this sort of funny middle ground where people who felt like they were less familiar with these sorts of puzzles, well, they would be able to just solve it super fast, so it wouldn't even be a puzzle for them. People who are more familiar with these, one button is turning on and off multiple things, would be more likely to be gun shy and like turn things off in between and be careful and not just decide to press them like that. And so I figured that it would almost be an experience curve where the more you've seen these puzzles, the harder you're going to make it for yourself. And so I kind of didn't mind
really
that.
Funny.
Yeah.
I actually felt the opposite, Toby, where I was like actually thrilled that we just accidentally solved it, because I could tell, like, when I think after like the first 2 buttons, I was like, okay, I can see like the type of puzzle this is. This is going to be one of those where, you know, this button turns on these and so on and so forth.
It can be frustrating to solve a puzzle when you don't realize sort of why you solved it, but also when it's I've got to turn on all of the lights by pressing buttons. Often you will just sort of randomly blow your way into it without seeing a pattern to it anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that particular puzzle was a good reflection of sort of how I approach puzzle solving in general, which is where I'm like, okay, I think I see what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to just do the lazy way first and maybe it'll work. And I don't have to do the work of solving this.
And you know what?
And I was rewarded for my laziness.
Sometimes this is how they go. I mean, it's like, what if you got a puzzle that could end up with an interesting sort of logic puzzle where you've got to put things into their correct places and someone just happens to put them in with one clue, gets them all right the first time. Low odds of it happening, but it can absolutely happen. And sometimes you've just got to leave room for that to be able to happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's true. And I feel like we worked really hard on a lot of the other puzzles.
Yes.
I
was like,
all right,
also
we get
felt
one
like
freebie.
that was likely to be the case.
And there was a moment
Didn't
halfway
bite.
through where it was just like, are you going to just keep adding them, or are you going to try and find out what each button does by itself and like turn the first one off and turn the...
Yeah.
And you almost went the other way, which would have made
did.
you have to actually solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
So you almost did it.
It was close.
But yeah, my God, my notebook is such a mess for that puzzle. It was very upsetting. I consider initially there were things like when you press the button, it will turn all 3 on, but if you turn it off, only 2 of them will turn off.
Oh, no, that's too much.
I couldn't be bothered.
that's
It
too
was
much.
awful.
The other end was that, not the very last puzzle, but like the one before, I just put, this puzzle is so hard. And I think like Tor and I were working, we got it. We had to get some hints a little bit. Like
The
you kind
elevator
of
one?
pointed out-
Which one?
The one with all of the rooms. I
the
closed all the
spelling
pictures.
out the letters.
The spelling out.
Yeah.
And like that was so hard. And I kept thinking like, what am I missing, or what are we missing? Like we're just, I didn't know where to go. But man, when we figured it out, that was the highlight, was like figuring that out. But it was so hard. I didn't know where to go. And
It is. It's
almost
so
like,
many
I need
little
one of my
bits.
3 hints.
Yeah, because you've got like room numbers.
Call Brian again.
You've got an unrelated thing that is like, at some point you will need to separate something via these rules, but you have no idea what to separate or even how to interpret the rules. So you have to kind of figure out that the room numbers are what you want to separate, and then realize that once you've separated them, one of them is Smith and Party, so it connects to another thing that said Smith and Party, and then what that means, you know, and then the other one, you basically will never be able to have the usage for cut us out by the time you find it. So it seems at first kind of odd and weird. It's like, cut them out as in like ignore them, cut them out as in take them out from the sum. I don't really know.
I was tempted to also accept subtracting one, but I really wanted to pitch ignoring it a bit more, but
Yeah.
I'd be flexible on that in future.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it is definitely, there's a lot of little bits all together. You have to realize there's like, I've got this bucket of bits left. Do any of them stick together? Oh my God, they all stick together. That's cool. Like,
We
but
got
yeah,
it.
is-
It was
Yeah, and
rough.
you,
Yeah.
and you got it.
I honestly didn't think of the cut us out clue like in with the key cards. You thought of that so fast, Toby, because I was like, man, we're so close, but what do we do with this? And you're just like, bam, oh, cut us out.
Your faces
doing
and your
this
voices
group.
in that moment were, this is why that puzzle exists. That was what I wanted.
Yeah.
You gave it to me. I was very happy.
It was
Oh,
interesting.
good.
It was really interesting from my end because obviously I've played it through, so I knew. It's like, all right, cut us out. That's the final puzzle thing. I've done this before, and watching Danny describe it and trying both to seed in but not overuse the phrase like cutting or like remove or like there was, as Danny was describing it, being like, so there's 15 things and you could sort of you could cut things into it so that
Like
you
a hole
can,
punch.
like a hole punch. So you remove a thing. So like if you were to say like cut just the number 3 one out for room 3, now that's not there, and just these little like every now and then just cut, cut, and then maybe a little cut, maybe just a tiny cut,
Come
but not too
on.
much because you
Give
could
me
have
a little cut.
you could have gone way too far and been like, so you cut this out, you cut it out, and then now that you've cut out 3, like, and that would be way too much. So it was interesting to listen to see, just put the word, just incept it a little bit as this is the process of cutting, but not cutting this out. I won't ever say cut this out. Every now and then I'll say cut. So and then I'll say remove for a few times, and I'll go back to cut once or twice. But yeah, it's just one of those moments that will snap into your head at some point. You go, cut this out! Oh my God!
And that was the impression I got from you guys when you got it, and I was
Yeah.
happy. Because I like that. I like having an early thing or something thought of as irrelevant, and then oh my God, wait a second at the very end.
That's how I felt with with revisiting the menu, and the like
Oh,
Liquor?
the gentle nudge from Bill.
it was
Like,
totally.
is it nothing? Like what can you do with that?
Or,
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
"Ugh,
It was
fine, I'll look at the
I
menu
think part of it
again."
was you specifically went, well, I know there's no alcohol on this menu, so
Yeah.
I'm not even going to look. And I was like,
that
no,
was a
please.
little bit.
Do you know there's no alcohol? Well, you made that statement really
Because I
confidently.
meant there were no drinks.
There was not a
ordered,
drink
Yeah.
section.
but yes,
And we
but
wouldn't
yeah.
have gone back.
No,
we
you
would
never
have been
would've.
like, the menu's no longer.
We've had
I
that
was
a lot.
scanning it, but I was like, "There's not going to be anything here." And then Bill's like, "Well, maybe." And I'm like, "Okay." I saw 1, and then I saw 2, and I was like, "Okay, that's too many
Yeah.
to be."
That was
Yeah.
great to listen to because you were like, I suppose there's like rum and sake. Wait a minute.
Okay, it's weird
Red
now.
wine?
I have to do something
This is
about
crazy.
I didn't realize that it was the same. There were now 15 menu items. I should add
Oh,
extra.
yes.
There were originally 16, but it made it deceptive and possible to accidentally get things correct, potentially. So
Yeah, I can't remember our exact problem with it, but there was something odd.
there was like an extra sticky one, but that took it up to 4. But then if you got rid of the alcoholic one, that would take it down to 3. But if you
Yeah,
had
that's
4,
right.
why would you? There's no 4 button, so you'd try 3 anyway.
Yeah, we had it as like there were 4 of
Oh.
them.
Yeah, so it seems silly. So we just removed one of them. But now there are the same number of menu items as there are rooms, so I feel like I should add one more back in.
Yeah. Or just maybe change a thing to. Oh, yeah, like add it back in, but make it not any of the categories. So you just add in a random thing.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is, like-
exactly.
Like spaghetti and meatballs.
Like
Exactly.
spaghetti.
I feel
Yes.
like I've got to add spaghetti and
Yes.
meatballs now.
We've had it. So we've been working for a while now on the game Rise of the Golden Idol. We're doing like
Mhm.
writing and creating and a whole bunch of stuff for that game, and it's been a lot of fun. But one of the parts of that process is compared to this
Repeated playtesting.
a lot of playtesting. But I've discovered the most irritating feeling during the playtest, which would have happened if we hadn't mentioned this alcohol thing. Because you're just saying like you never would have gone back to the menu. And we've had this happen so many times. We'll watch people playtest and we'll know. They'll be like, wait a minute, what color, what, do I know what color this is? And I'm sitting there thinking, haha, you do know what color it is. There's, in one person's inventory, they have a note that talks specifically about the color this thing is. And then you watch them click every single thing in the entire scene other than that note. Over for no reason. It's always, whenever they're stuck, they'll always click on everything other than what they need. And they'll click every single thing in the scene, other, like literally everything but the note. And then they'll go, better start again. And they'll click every single thing in the scene and then never the note. And you're like,
I
it's
do
in
it
that
as
one
well
note.
when I'm
Please.
playtesting some
Please
of these
open the one
scenarios.
note.
I've
Please.
just got it into my head that, no, I remember that there was nothing relevant in this
And you're like,
section.
no, that's where it was relevant. And then you make a note to yourself, like, please, they must make it more enticing to click the note. But yeah, it's very funny to watch. And I was so worried about having that same feeling. If you're like, alcohol, well, it's not the menu. So let's look at every other thing and try and find alcohol.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm having flashbacks.
Because luckily our inventory was much smaller,
That is true.
than
Not too many
fitting.
things.
So I'm sure we would have circled back around to it eventually, but yeah.
You should. One would hope.
One would hope.
But yeah, look, I thought you guys did really well. It was really fun to watch you play through. Or to
I would have liked you to pour your honest heart out to Brian on the phone, but that's
yes,
just me.
I do think that was like my approach to Brian was I was like, Brian, did I leave any clues with you? I have organized a thing for my wife or for my fiance. Did I leave any clues with you, Brian? Is there anything I told you to say? And he said the same thing. He was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just say, look in the lockbox.
I just work here.
My initial concept with this room started out, I wouldn't say wildly differently. I wanted it to be obviously on the ship, and I wanted it to be you have amnesia and trying to find someone that you love. That was where I started as this is kind of nice. Let's have happy stories in escape rooms. Not everything is life or death, just a little bit crunchy. But then, how the hell does this make sense? What do you both have amnesia for each other? What's going on here? And then, so eventually, it took a really long time for that to transfer into you are trying to propose to them, and then only somehow steps after that of, no, all of these puzzles are here because you made them. It took ages for that to be the final concept for it.
Which feels like a really nice concept for like amnesia and puzzles.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun if you don't remember your own puzzles?
And yet...
Oh, now I have an image.
It had variants of like, oh, you know who they are, but you can't find them because they work on the ship. They're not a passenger. Or maybe they work as an aide to another passenger and it's under that passenger's name or something like that. There are all sorts of variants about why you couldn't find her.
I've now got a great pitch for a tabletop role-playing scenario, which is the ancient wizard who has created his magical tower full of traps and riddles. But he's forgotten them all. He's getting old and he's forgotten all his riddles. And you need to help him get back home. He's like, I know I set these up somehow. They were meant to kill adventurers who tried to disturb my studies. But I don't remember how to get in. So
That would be amazing.
it's a good bit. Feel free to use it.
And so instead, I just went with hand-wavy
honestly-
accident instead of sad old.
Yeah, does that ever get an explanation? Is that a mystery or is it just a whatever?
We'll
Someone
find
just
out.
slipped. Okay.
I'm excited to hear the backstory. I'm also very curious about Torby's financial means to be able to reserve like an
Presumably book out
entire
this
cruise
floor.
ship floor
Yeah.
and apparently sort of like renovate
Yeah, a
in
little bit.
small ways.
Cut a
yeah.
hole in the door.
And
I have
works
some
there?
questions.
Because
Nobody
it called the
knows.
phone and was like, this is to help the crew floor. But
Yeah,
you're
we have a weird code word with the staff. Yeah, I have some big questions about Torby's
Torby's evil.
background.
Torby's evil. Let's kill Torby.
I
All
do
the-
like
the next three are
do
all killing
like the
Torby.
twist. Yeah, I do like that horror twist that like she has never met Torby.
oh my God.
They've never met. He's a freak. Well, look, thank you so much for playing through the room. It was wonderful to have you both on. And it was good. I think we haven't done anything, the three of us together, since like level 1. And well,
Yeah.
Danny's never done anything with the three of us ever. But
For all of you.
the three of us, since like tabletop treasure hunters for level 1 geek,
Many
which was a while
moons
back.
ago.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So one last time before you each go, Toby, if people wanted to check out SideQuest Inn and other things you're doing, where should they go? Where do you want to send people?
They can find us on any of their podcatchers or the sidequestin.com.
Lovely. And Tori, same thing, level 1 geek, where can people look?
Kind of the same drill as SideQuest Inn. You can find us on YouTube and your podcast platforms at Level 1 Geek, or you can find everything at level1geek.com.
Wonderful. And look, I would definitely, for anyone listening, I would recommend it. If you're listening, you're like, I want new tabletop role-playing content, go and check them both out. They're both very fun podcasts and stories and gameplay. It's definitely worth listening to. So go and check it out. And then come back and listen to more of this podcast. Don't leave forever. Please come back. Please come back. Go for a little bit. Say hi, but come back here.
You have unlimited time and brain space and download space.
Exactly. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for people at home who are listening. Thank you, Danny, for running a fun room.
Thank you for
Yay,
helping
Danny.
tweak and
Thank you.
maybe not quite perfect it, but get it better.
True. And also, for people listening at home, thank you so much for listening. If you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do is just tell people about it. Just talk about it. Talk about it online.
Don't you want to say Oceananigans out loud more often?
You want to say Oceananigans to everyone you know. It's just the best way to spread the word about the show is to literally just tell people, and it's the best thing for podcast listenership. You can also help by supporting us on Patreon. I want to preface this by saying if you already support a bunch of people on Patreon, that's fine. You don't have to support everybody on Patreon. This is not a requirement. But if you would like to help support the show, Patreon is how we do it. That's how we pay our bills. That's how we keep the things going. We don't run ads because I don't like ads. So we get our support through Patreon. And in return, anyone who signs up for any level, for even $1, can appear as an NPC in one of our rooms. There were 3 in this one, right?
Yeah, today we had George, we had Jen McPhillamy, and we had Brian Oriti. Thank you so much, you 3.
Thank you so much for supporting the show. You're now all aboard the Spaghetti and Meatball. That's where
And
the
I'm
S,
sorry I
the
yelled
S
at
at the end of
Brian.
false bottoms came from the S and meatballs. He took it off the side of the ship, said, it's just the meatball now. Made it false bottoms instead.
I see.
There's also bonus episodes. If you're a $5 donor, you can hear our playtest audio. You can hear our 2 minute mystery solving, where we solve little murder mysteries. We had a whole run of cryptic crosswords that we did when we didn't have playtests to do. There's bonus videos for our $10 donors. There's trivia for our $20 donors. A whole bunch of fun stuff. And you can hang out on Patreon and chat and get access to
And look,
secret
I can't
parts of the
lie.
Discord.
There are also some desperate apologies where I say, I'm sorry I'm running late posting content. We're working really hard, guys.
That's also true. Yeah, look, it is still true. The free stuff is the stuff that comes first. I hope everyone is enjoying Escape This Podcast and Solve This Murder and all that fun stuff. There's also, you don't mention it often, but it's in the show notes. If you want to chat, social media is a hellscape more and more every day. So come to the Discord where at least you can talk and you know that it's just going to be talking to me. And Elon's not going to rock up and be like, oh, really? Escape rooms? What a beta. So you can just hang out with us and I'll call you a beta. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for everyone who's supporting the show. And thank you once more to Torby for playing through our room.
Yay!
you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.